الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So as we continue discussing the book Al-Mukhtasar Sahih Bukhari, that is titled Al-Tajweed Al-Sarih Lil-Zabidi rahimahullah, one of the mashayikh, one of the ulama who made a mukhtasar, a summary of Sahih Bukhari. So we've been discussing this particular chapter of Kitab al-Salat, and what I've been mentioning regarding the ahkam of Salat. So of those things regarding Salat, that is discussing concerning matters that relate to al-thiyab, regarding the type of garment to be worn, which within the topic of Salat regarding matters regarding al-awra, regarding one covering of one's awra, and the type of clothing to be done. So we'll be continuing concerning what I've been mentioning regarding of those things regarding clothing that it is allowed to wear and how one to go about wearing such clothing while in Salat. تفضل.
بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. قال المؤلف رحمه الله. Chapter 5. If the garment is tight over the body. Hadith number 236, narrated by Sa'ad ibn Harith. Jabir radiallahu anhu said, I travelled with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam during some of his journeys, and I came to him at night for some purpose, and I found him offering as-salah. At that time, I was wearing a single garment with which I covered my shoulders and offered as-salah by his side. When he finished the salah, he asked, O Jabir, what brought you here? I told him what I wanted. When I finished, he asked, O Jabir, what is this garment which I have seen and with which you covered your shoulders? I replied, it is a tight garment. He said, if the garment is large enough, wrap it around the body, covering the shoulders. And if it is tight, too short, then use it as an izar. Tie it around your waist only. Hadith number 237, narrated by Sahih radiallahu anhu. The men used to offer as-salah with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with their izar tied around their necks, as boys used to do. Therefore, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told the women not to raise their heads from prostration till the men sat down straight while praying.
So those are the hadith that I mentioned regarding this particular chapter that the author rahimahullah have mentioned regarding إذا كان الثوب ضيقا. So if the matters pertaining to of the ahkam that relates to the clothing, if they consider to be ضيق, which is somewhat ضيق, so he mentioned regarding concerning that the hadith that is mentioned here regarding this particular discussion. So the first of those two hadiths that I mentioned, he mentioned first hadith of Jabir, who is Jabir ibn Abdullah Ta'ala anhu al-Ansari. So it's a Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari who mentioned this particular first hadith. So he mentioned that خرجت مع النبي عليه السلام في بعض أسفاري. So they mentioned as for this particular journey, this trip, that Jabir, that he accompanied the Prophet ﷺ in, that he mentioned في بعض أسفاري, in some of his journey or some of his journeys. And they mentioned concerning as for this particular journey that is being mentioned here is one of the Ghazawat. So concerning this journey was more so is a journey regarding concerning Ghazawat, one of the battles that Jabir participated in. As mentioned here by Qastalani rahimahullah. So regarding of those who explain Sahih Bukhari, Al-Qastalani, that he mentioned as for this particular Ghazawa, this particular Ghazawa, it is Al-Ghazwa Bawat. It's Ghazwa Bawat. So one of those Ghazawat that Jabir was a part of. So it mentioned that he came to the Prophet ﷺ, reached them in the night. Then he mentioned وَعَلَيَّ ثَوْبٌ وَاحِدٌ وَاشْتَمَنَتْ وَلَاشْتَمْتُ بِي. So he mentioned that of those things that when he came was somewhat in the night when he arrived, and he saw the Prophet ﷺ that he was praying, so he joined him. Then he mentioned وَصَلَّيْتُ إِلَى جَانِبِي. So he came to the Prophet ﷺ as he observed that he was praying, and he prayed beside him. Then he mentioned فَلَمَّا إِنْصَرَفَ. Then after the salat as ended, then he mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ asked concerning Ma Surah Ya Jabir. So concerning Surah Jabir, concerning what's the reason behind you coming up, joining us at this hour of the night. So you joining us at this hour of the night. So, and he mentioned, Ma sura ya Jabir. So the Prophet Islam, that it shows at times that he will have that relationship with companions, that you're able, that he knew of their name, and also he will address them directly. So he mentioned, Ya Jabir. So addressing Jabir directly, showing concern that, as the Prophet Islam, that he had that relationship with the companion and knew them, and also knew of their names. So that showed that close type of relationship that he had with the Sahaba in general. Then it mentioned that he explained to him regarding of the reason. Then of the thing that he mentioned concerning the Prophet ﷺ, after he explained his reason, فَقَالْ مَا هَذَا اشْتِمَالَ الَّذِي رَأَيْتِ. So then he asked him concerning مَا هَذَا الْإِشْتِمَالِ, that you wearing the garment in this fashion, why is this that I can observe? So it shows concerning the Prophet ﷺ, they mentioned regarding concerning Qastalani, that in his explanation he mentioned that the question that was asked, مَا هَذَا الْإِشْتِمَالِ, that الَّذِي رَأَيْتِ, that this concern is al-istifham to the Prophet ﷺ, that is asking, posing a question, but by way of inkar. So the Prophet ﷺ, that is asking a question, but his question is by of let him know regarding about, so in expressing his disapproval of what was being worn by Jabir. So they mentioned that ma hadha, this question is by way of al-istifham al-inkari, where at times question may be asked, but it's a sign, but that question in a way of showing of one disapproval or lack of one disapproval of what is being done. So from this issue regarding concern of Prophet Islam regarding al-inkar, or the Prophet Islam having concern, that expressing his disapproval of something that is being wrong. So it shows regarding that he spoke to Jabir. He asked him concerning why the reason behind him coming this late at night. So kind of somewhat they say, break the ice. So breaking the ice regarding concerning that, what he has observed regarding Jabir. So the first of those things kind of somewhat start, we said, by breaking the ice, asking regarding why he came at this hour of the night. Then after Jabir answered, then I mentioned أخبرته بحاجتي, that I explained to him regarding what was my needs, what's the reason behind that I came. Then I mentioned فلما فرغت قال, then Jabir mentioned that as I completed what I'm saying. So it shows also the Prophet ﷺ that he spoke, then he allowed Jabir also to respond. So also he allowed Jabir to respond to the question that was asked, that he asked him. Then as I mentioned, فَلَمَّا فَرَغْتُ, then I mentioned that when I completed, ended what I was saying, so it kind of someone should, the Prophet ﷺ allowed him to explain himself. So at times, allowing someone to explain their situation and their case. And in this case, even the Prophet ﷺ observed various things of the things, why you came this late. Then the second thing, then allow him to explain. Then he mentioned, مَا هَذَا الْإِشْتِمَالِ الَّذِي رَأَيْتِ. Then the second question that was asked, what is this way of dress, how you were adorning yourself that I have observed? So it shows regarding concerning al-inkar, al-munkar. So it shows for a person have observed certain things of munkar that one can make inkar, and sometimes that inkar not the person just outright attacking the person, but at times that using by way of question. So by way of question, but that question is asked, it is understood to kind of somewhat to let the person know regarding of your maybe disapproval of that act. Then I mentioned فقلت ثوب كان ثوب, then I mentioned that then he went on to explain that he was wearing a thobe regarding concerning a garment. Then alayhi salam, then he mentioned regarding concerning, or clarified regarding concerning wearing of things that are said to be daik, that are said to be narrow. I said what the word daik have in English there?
Tight.
A tight fitting, so concerning very tight fitting. So regarding concern that Jabir, they said that ishtimal, that he was wearing away, can someone fully wrapped himself in that garment. So it was all tightly wrapped inside that garment, where so the Prophet ﷺ can somewhat express his disapproval of wearing the garment in this fashion. So when a person wear the garment that tightly, that is even also to move properly. And regarding salat, it becomes something which is difficult. So they mention that because so he completely wrapped himself inside this, the garment or the clothing that he was wearing. So he mentioned when kana wasi'un, then that mentioned if there's something which is wasa, it is something which is broad, then that's no problem that one can do so. Wa in kana daykan fatazir fatazir bi. Then he mentioned that if it is something which is then daik, very narrow, then the person kind of somewhat, then you try to cover your lower body, not per se your entire body. So to cover the lower part of your body, not the entire body. So it shows concerning the hadith, as mentioned, that the Prophet ﷺ, that at time addressing the Sahaba by using of their name, showing that type of personal, that type of relationship that he had, and giving that kind of somewhat that human type of approach of things. Then also observing of things concerning Jabir, but starting with something which is asking concerning, the reason behind him joining them at night. And then also he discussed concerning or expressed his disapproval regarding the garment, the way in which he was wearing of that garment. Then he mentioned regarding concerning something which is wasa, which is the ideal thing. They can wear a full garment, but it is something which is daik, something which is narrow, more restricted, confined. Then a person, then he tries to cover is the lower part of his body. So that shows, that's concerning the hadith that is mentioned here regarding concerning of those things regarding concerning of wearing of clothing, and also the hadith regarding a salat, that a person trying not to wear things that are somewhat very tightly fitted regarding a salat, that can lead to exposure. And also they mention that this method in which Jabir was wearing the garment, that he was unable to move properly, so he could his hands couldn't move properly because he wrapped himself around in this thing in a very tight fashion. So it's concerning this particular person should wear things that are loose, especially in particular regarding his salat, as he required to do different postures, going to different postures. So that's concerning the first hadith. Then he mentioned the second hadith of Asal. قال كان رجل يصلون مع النبي عليه السلام آخذي أزرهم على أناقهم. So it mentioned regarding concerning the person that praying regarding concerning their garment, and as we had discussed regarding concerning of the discussion regarding concerning that the person covering of his shoulders in salat. Then I mentioned Kanhayat al-Sibyan, that he was wearing the garment by way of children. Then I mentioned Yuqal al-Nisa, it was said to the ladies based upon the person who was wearing the garment in this fashion, that because of possible exposure of himself, they mentioned لا ترفعن أو لا ترفع رؤوسهن حتى يستوي الرجال جلوسا. So it mentioned regarding concerning that لا ترفعن, that the female should not per se raise because of the situation that how the person was wearing of his garment, that could lead to exposure of himself, that the Prophet ﷺ told regarding the female that they should not raise their heads until after the man are in an upright position. So the woman not to raise their heads to come out of the salat or come up from salat until the man or the men before that they were in a proper sitting position and have concealed themselves. So that's concerning that this particular hadith again regarding concerning that it showed the Prophet ﷺ that was very keen regarding giving a tawjih or irshad, that kind of somewhat giving direction and instruction to the companions regarding any matter of importance, and especially regarding a salat, and also other people exposing themselves to others, or possibility of exposure of one to another, especially regarding a male with a female. And also that he mentioned regarding concern that also indicating regarding that people should dress properly regarding salat. So also to dress properly regarding salat, so the person does not expose areas of the salat that should not, or areas of his body in his salat. And also it shows regarding that another al-hurmat an-nadhr ila al-awrat, that also it shows regarding that people, even though sometimes may not people even in case where a person may not intentionally, but by way of accident, that still try to protect their eyes from seeing and looking at things that are inappropriate. So not to look at things that are inappropriate regarding people exposing of their self. Then he mentioned Jawaz al-Salat. Also it proves, as another point, the permissibility of female praying behind a man without any form of partition. So in the time of the Prophet, the Prophet ﷺ, that is masjid, that just imagine that there is no partition between the male and the female. Now, so let's imagine this particular where we are. So the man will be in the front and the female in the back without any partition. Now, so that was established. Then after a while, it kind of somewhat changed. After a while, it changed regarding that in the masajid, they start to introduce regarding a form of partition between the male and female as things kind of somewhat change for people. So regarding after the Salaf and the Sahaba, then things start to change. Then they start to introduce these things regarding asad the darya of putting things in place so as to stop people into doing things that they shouldn't. So of the things concerning that, but initially the Prophet ﷺ masjid did not have partition between male and female, that the female pray behind the man. And I mentioned that during that time that you find that most of the salawat that the female will attend regarding the salat in the night hours. So they will more attend and participate in the salat of al-fajr and the ones in the evening, where it was more dark. So that was concerned also in salat concerning that time, but it showed the permissibility of this. It showed the permissibility of this was said as a common practice in the masajid, except maybe with a few exceptions, that most masajid that you have a partition between male and female. You have a partition between male and female. Aywa. Then he discussed concerning the chapter that follows.
قال مؤلف رحمه الله, chapter 6, to offer as-salah, a prayer in a Syrian cloak made by infidels. Hadith number 238, narrated by Mughira ibn Shu'bah radiyallahu anhu قال, once I was traveling with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, O Mughira, take this container of water. I took it, and Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam went far away until he disappeared. He answered the call of nature and was wearing a Syrian cloak. He called to take out his hand. He tried to take out his hand from its sleeves, but it was very tight. So he took out his hands from under it. I poured water, and he performed ablution like that for the salah, and passed his wet hands over his khufs, leather socks, and then offered the salah. Chapter 7, it is disliked to be naked during...
So they mentioned regarding the chapter that follows concerning that as-salat fi jubba ash-shamiyya. So after the discussion regarding concerning this particular matter regarding of clothing that to be worn in salat, that they mentioned regarding concerning Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, initially that discussing concerning of those things that relates to salat is regarding al-awra. So of those matters that the ulama that they deem as one of the discussion regarding as-salat is the person preparation for salat. And of those preparation regarding salat that they mention a certain thing that should be in place. Of those things, how the person is dressed. So how the person is dressed regarding his salat, regarding meaning concern that there are certain areas of the body that must be covered. There are certain areas of the body that it is a must to be covered in the person in carrying out of salat. That applies to male and female. So of those things they discuss, so and the ulama they describe concern of arkan of salat. So they mention of those things that relates to the arkan of salat. So they will discuss concerning of those things that the person ensuring that he is covered properly. Then also by extension that Imam Bukhari rahimullah initially or Zabid rahimullah mentioned concerning this hadith regarding of the things to be covered, regarding a garment to be worn. What is of those things which is allowed and not allowed, or liked and disliked. So regarding of covering the things that are worn, regarding our clothing, what are those things that are liked or disliked? So they mentioned regarding concerning as-salat fi jub shamiyya, that they mentioned regarding concern that this is the discussion regarding that in the time of the Prophet ﷺ concerning Sham, that is referred to as greater Syria, that include concerning Syria, Jordan, Palestine, and those surrounding areas that's considered to be Sham. That at that time the Prophet ﷺ, that area was still considered to be the land of the kuffar. That was still considered to be the land of the kuffar. So regarding concerning, I mentioned the hadith discussed concerning the permissibility of wearing clothing made or clothing from the kuffar. So regarding concerning discussion regarding wearing of clothing of that of the kuffar, I would say that was meant during that time. Nam and Sham then was not under the Islamic state, or the people there have accepted Islam. So during that time, wearing clothing from foreigners who are not Muslim. Then I mentioned concerning the hadith regarding this matter, so regarding the permissibility of this. So regarding is this something permissible or not permissible. Then he mentioned the hadith of Mughira ibn Shu'bah anhu, where he mentioned that he was in the Prophet ﷺ regarding when the suffer. Then he mentioned, Ya Mughira. So again, regarding the Prophet ﷺ, that addressing concerning his companion by name. So can somewhat, they said, no, having that personal touch with the matter. Or he dealt with people, so having that personal touch in dealing with people by calling them by name. Ya Mughira. And the word Ya, they said Ya Nida, as a way of how the Arabs would address each other by saying Ya Fulan. So that's how they would normally address each other as a form of like respect, and how they would speak with each other. Then I mentioned Khud Idawa. Then also that, for you to bring me something, some utensil. Then he mentioned that, so it shows regarding also regarding asking others to assist you regarding matters, regarding bringing something that you can make use of it. So this kind of idawa, this type of container to assist, to use regarding making wudu and the likes. So the Prophet ﷺ asking someone to assist him regarding something. So this thing can be done regarding asking others for assistance. So they show the permissibility of this. Then I mentioned فَأَخَذْتُهَا. Then he mentioned that I went and I got it. So it shows regarding that if a person that if others ask of things, then the person also doing that thing, then there's no harm in this. Then I mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ, that he went away regarding concerning qada al-hajat, that the Prophet ﷺ that had that container, and then he went away to qada al-hajat, that he went moved away or walked away so as to fulfill the call of nature, So it shows regarding concerning the Prophet ﷺ that you find that he would fulfill make the call of nature, showing that he's human and not something to be worshipped. So not per se the Prophet ﷺ is bashar, human being, and have the quality of human being regarding concerning how we function normal, regarding that he requires to eat, to drink, he sleeps, he are called fulfill the call of nature. So these type of things that I said common human qualities and actions that the Prophet ﷺ that he fulfill of these things. Then he mentioned that he went to call of nature, but he moved away from the people. So it shows regarding that in fulfilling the call of nature, that in that time they were like in open air, so they move away from the people and go in privacy to do of such. Then I mentioned that alayhi jubbatul shamiyah. Then also of those things that he mentioned, that the Prophet ﷺ, that he was wearing a particular type of garment. He was wearing a garment, a cloak from Sham. So mentioned concerning at that time, that was the garment that was from Sham. So that concerned the shahid from the hadith regarding that matter. So from this you find that the ulama who all concerning the garments of the kuffar, of the ulama who all that is something which is disliked to be done, of the ulama who all is something which is permissible. Those who all it is something which is not allowed to be done, they base upon the idea, or they base upon regarding that the clothing of the kuffar that is worn or that is made by them, that also those garments they see it as najas. They see those garments as najas, as being impure. So since if so based upon this, that is not something to be worn, because it's considered to be najas. But of the ulama who all that is something which is allowed to be worn, so you consider the asl of thing is that it is tahir until one can prove otherwise. So the asl regarding clothing being pure, not being impure, that the asl is considered to be pure unless there's something to say otherwise. So even concerning that those garments that are made by the kuffar is considered to be something which is pure until one can say prove otherwise. So based upon that, they mention that these things can be not considered to be najas, but rather it is pure unless there's things to say otherwise. And so that's concerning aqwal of the ulama on this matter. Of the ulama all concerned that as mentioned that's not ulama mentioned regarding that, it is preferred for the person, if he has a garment for the kuffar, I've been given a garment for the kuffar, that before it is worn, it's to be washed. So before it is worn, then it is to be washed. So they mentioned that أجازه الشافعي والكوفيين وكره ذلك ابن سيرين. So of the ulama, that the Shafi'iyya and the ulama of Kufa, that all it is permissible regarding the wearing of the garment of the kuffar. But of the ulama, all is something which is disliked. Among them, Ibn Sirin. So amongst them, Ibn Sirin. So they mentioned that in Sahih Imam Bukhari, the initial author, that he mentioned this chapter heading regarding this discussion, so as to prove and mention the hadith to prove that it is something which is permissible. That is permissible regarding wearing the garments of people who are the non-Muslim.
So Ibn
Sirin.
You don't think it's permissible?
That it is disliked. So you might do the word karya there, Ibn Sirin. But also the word dislike amongst the ulama of the Salaf at times may mean haram.
Okay.
So the ulama of the Salaf, that they use the word karya, which would mean like where people say disliked, but with dislike for them means something which is haram. So in summary, from the hadith it shows concern that you know that istihbab, it shows that it's something which is allowed, permissible for a person to assist a person of standing. So a person who's an alim, a person of standing, that to assist that person in doing of carrying on certain things, it is something which is mustahab, it's something which is allowed. Also, it shows regarding that the permissibility for one to assist a person in carrying on, in making of wudu. So the person can assist a person in making of wudu by pouring the water for them and the likes. Even to the extent regarding the person that if a person may, and so that's something which is allowed. Also, it shows the permissibility of praying in garments that are made by the kuffar. That it is not something which is najis and the like. So the person wearing the garments made by the kuffar, it is something which is, from what is apparent, it is not made of something which is haram, and also it is something which is of impurity, then it is allowed to be done. And also it shows regarding concern from the hadith that a person regarding carrying out the call of nature, that the person tried to distance themselves from others, to move away from others, so the person not to be affected regarding the smell and the likes. We said that in today's time, that because of the way that we live today, that as I said, the toilets or lavatory, that they are right there. So sometimes, so Allah mustan, but the situation today is somewhat different regarding concern the lavatory, public toilets. They might find a series of them side by side. So at times the person can hear, can smell what is taking place by his neighbor, for Allah mustan. Then it mentioned regarding concerning that also from the hadith, that's the next discussion to be discussed, that he mentioned that of the hadith of Mughira that is mentioned regarding, that he mentioned فَصَبَبْتُ عَلَيْهِ فَتَوَضَّعْتُ وُضُوءَهُ لِلصَّلَاةِ وَمَسَأَ عَلَى خُفَّيْهِ ثُمَّ صَلَّى. That of those things that Al-Mughira, the hadith is used, and to have that regarding concerning that he poured water for the Prophet ﷺ regarding performing of wudu, and also that the Prophet ﷺ, that he wiped over his khuf, that he wiped over his leather socks, and then ثُمَّ صَلَّى, and then he prayed. So can show the permissibility of wiping over the socks. He showed the permissibility of wiping over the leather socks without the person washing his feet, but it's sufficient to wipe over the socks with the condition attached to it, with the condition that are attached to this. So that's concerning that particular hadith. Aywa.
قال المؤلف رحمه الله, Chapter 7, it is disliked to be naked during as-salah. Hadith number 239, narrated by Jabir ibn Abdullah radiyallahu anhuma. While Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam was carrying stones along with the people of Mecca for the repairing of the Kaaba, wearing an izar, waist sheet cover, his uncle Al-Abbas said to him, "Oh my nephew, it would be better if you take off your izar and put it over your shoulders underneath the stones." So he took off the izar and put it over his shoulders, but he felt unconscious, and since then he had never been seen naked.
So the mention concerning this hadith regarding concerning karahiyat of one exposing or being naked. So this concerning that one not being naked regarding concerning salat or otherwise. So regarding salat or otherwise. So they mention kariyat ta'arruhi or the dislike, or concerning dislike concerning is haram, that one ta'arri fi salat wa ghayri, for salat and other than salat, so salat wa ghayriha and other than salat. So regarding concerning to know that one should not pray while they are naked, nor is allowed for a person without a valid to be naked in front of others without a valid reason. So that's concerning this particular discussion. So of the thing they mentioned, hadith of Jabir ibn Abdullah regarding concerning the Prophet Islam regarding kana yanqul ma'hum al-hijara lil-Kaaba. They mentioned concerning this incident occurred regarding concerning that the Prophet Islam, that of those things of the past, that he would carry stone and assist in carrying of stone regarding the rebuilding of the Kaaba. So regarding the rebuilding or the renovation of the Kaaba. So in the renovation of the Kaaba, that the Prophet ﷺ, that he assisted concerning Al-Quraysh. So assisted Quraysh in the rebuilding of the or renovation of the Kaaba. So of those things that I mentioned, that at the age he was around 35, as mentioned by Qastalani, that at that time he was around the age of Khamsa Salasin Sana. He was 35 when this rebuild or the renovation of the Kaaba that it took place. And he was wearing izar, is Abbas, that his uncle mentioned regarding Ibn Akhi, that he mentioned regarding that, that it is for him to remove of his izar. Then it mentioned that and put it on his shoulder so as to help him regarding carrying of stones. So regarding carrying of the stone, to make it easier, not to bruise of his body and the likes. Then he kind of somewhat he did so, and then he fainted. So he kind of somewhat put the izar. And is regarding concerning that, not the top layer, regarding concerning that what was covering of his the top, uncover his top and put it on his shoulders so as to use it to brace regarding to cover his shoulders. Then it mentioned the fasaqat. Then he kind of somewhat fainted from this. So it shows regarding concerning the Prophet ﷺ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected him regarding not doing a thing that is not befitting. So regarding exposure of himself, and it was not a full exposure. So the hadith is not to be understood that he completely exposed of himself. That they show that the Prophet ﷺ was kind of somewhat protected regarding this matter. He was protected regarding not exposing himself in front of others. So it shows in general that the act of the person in general, the ulama discuss concerning not exposing of one's scent in the presence of others. They mention concerning with the exception, they have cases of exception. So in general, in the public, one should not expose themselves or reveal things that should not be revealed in front of the public regarding certain their private parts and the likes. But also regarding that is regarding exposure of oneself, then a person that there are times that is something which is allowed. So regarding of one exposing of oneself, at times is something which is allowed regarding a person with his family. So a person can expose himself, and also his wife and husband can expose themselves to each other. Now, even though you find that some mention that there's something which is disliked, that for husband and wife, that between themselves, that somehow that even when they have an intimacy, that they are not to, the man not to look to his wife or to her exposed body, and the woman not to look to the man. But it's not that called, there's no dalil for it. There's no dalil regarding that matter. And at the time the Prophet Islam, but rather you might find dalil is contrary to this. So you find the Prophet Islam, there are times that he would take bath with his wife, and it's what I said, what is the norm, what to be understood is that taking a bath with one's wife is what? Naked. Now, that is done naked. So the Prophet Islam, so sure the Prophet Islam would at times does so. So sure something which is allowed, and they would not be, that what comes to mind, that's one wouldn't imagine that they are both covered. But some people take it take that adopt the idea that they were covered, because they see it as not exposing the Prophet ﷺ not being exposed or expose himself to anyone. But it's not that taking things a bit over the top, and that sometimes it stems from of people that they're of how they look to the Prophet ﷺ, that time they have certain concept that's a bit over the top. Where they see the Prophet, this person that like trying not to use the word blemish, the Prophet ﷺ have the perfect concerns, that character, and regarding concerning that a person of the highest level of nobility, regarding concerning the nobility, regarding how you function, but they kind of somewhat they go over the top in the sense that they try to protect him from any type of things that are normally occurs, and that can somewhat go over the top. So going over the top, then also want to try to avoid those things. So generally concerning the Prophet of Islam, that it shows regarding concerning the time of Jahiliyyah before Islam, assisting regarding is the people of Quraysh, and is regarding rebuilding of the Kaaba, and also being advised by his uncle for him to use of his garment and somewhat to put on his shoulders regarding carrying of the stones. But then when he tried to do so, then he fainted. فَسَقَطْ مَغْشِيًّا عَلَيْهِ. So he he felt unconscious. So it shows regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protecting the Prophet of Islam even before Nabuwa. So it shows regarding that, as a Muslim in general, and especially a person that we said a person of responsibility, a person is involved regarding a da'wah and of responsibility in the community, that they should be mindful regarding their regarding concerning their behavior and conduct. So a person to be mindful of this and try to preserve regarding concerning that their name and their character, and not to do things that are unbefitting, not to be involved in things that are unbefitting for a person of that status or that responsibility. So of those regarding the person who said to be of a talib al-ilm, that not to function in any way. So the talib al-ilm, that a person regarding how he function, how he behaves, that not anything is accepted. Not anything is accepted. So he may be think that at times that's not everything is accepted. That they have to function in a way which is dignified and respectful regarding seeing that they are the people who are said to be the one representing Islam. So also it shows regarding the Prophet said that they mentioned here regarding that, of those things regarding that assisting one's community, local community, regarding things that are beneficial for the community. So a person, and that the benefit that may reach the Muslim and the non-Muslim alike. So the Muslim in his own community doing, as they say, community project to help the upliftment of the community and the betterment of the community. And still holding to Islamic principle, and also regarding concern that Muslim who may live in a non-Muslim community, still also assisting his local community or the community in doing things that will uplift and better that community. So those things are allowed. Those things are allowed that the person is making a part of ta'awun ala al-bir wa taqwa. The next chapter is a few hadith. They're longer. We'll stop there. Comes to the tradition of the ulama, they say of Hind in the study of hadith, that for each session, which ours is a bit different, they'll not exceed about 3 hadiths. But their thing is what? Every day. Their thing, so the sense of the ulama of Hind consider that concern that of those kind of somewhat of until recent and still that play a big part regarding concerning upholding regarding the study of hadith. So at some point you find that like the last century, 50 years type of thing, that the ones who uphold regarding concern that the study of the science of the Sunnah and hadith in general, that you'll find that Hind, Pakistan, that Asian continent, that they're the ones who somewhat uphold regarding the science of hadith. So of a system regarding their method of teaching would be concerned that they would teach, and it would be on a daily basis. The books of the Sunnah, but they would not per se exceed, they would do a few hadith per day. So the session would last for a few hadith, so where they could somewhat cover the hadith, so the person can understand the hadith and also memorize the hadith, so that without per se trying to cover too much hadith in over one session. So can somewhat do a moderate number, which is 3-4 hadith per session. So we'll stop there, inshallah ta'ala, for today, and continue next week. Wabillahi ta'ala Tawfiq.
So just got a question. So could you say wearing something tight is not permissible to pray in?
Aywa. Hey, so regarding concerning wearing of tight garments in salat, then something which is not to be done. Hey, considering that it can expose regarding things that should not be exposed.
Okay.
What is considered to be tight?
And so we start to consider the shape. We can see the shape of the person, then that becomes problematic, and that becomes too tight. So you have a discussion regarding, does it nullify the person's salat, or is doing something which is, his salat is, what he's doing is haram, but his salat is still acceptable. So you have that extent, but what he's doing as the practice is haram, but to the extent, does it nullify his salat or not? Clear?
No.
Hey, what?
Regarding rolling of your trousers on the top, what's the say from that?
Some hadith about not falling off the sleeve and the like. So that's the thing. So you have those hadith. So that's the thing. So so based upon those hadith mention something not to be done, then the person avoid doing it. So let's say you find that sometimes it is done today because of not per se the sleeve that much type of thing, is more so the trousers, because of sometimes said no, because we live in our people made the normal trousers, so they would kind of sound like goes beneath the ankle, so the person try to pull them up. Now, so that's the thing. So you have those. So a person may do so that you have two things, that he's trying to avoid wearing his trousers below his ankle. Now, but then he fall into something that is a next mahdhur. So you have the case between two things you are not to do. Then now, which of them is the lighter of the two evil? The lighter of the two evil. Now, so that's the thing. So the ones so they go for the lighter of the two, that they see it as folding the pants foot up rather than let it flow below the ankle. فالله مستعان. أيوة.
If you're praying at home and you've got shorts above the knees,
أيوة.
can you pray in that?
And that discussion to be in the next few discussion they mentioned regarding ما يدخل من الفخذ, that regarding concerning of the what they expose regarding the thigh. So that's concerned to come in the next few hadith. So that no, we wait until that discussion, inshallah. Because of the discussion, the primary part. تفضل شيخ.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allah.
It's not that in summary regarding concerning the matter that the discussion regarding does the knee, we're still on. So the discussion regarding to discuss further that does the knee is a part of the aura or not. So the garment is worn, does it needs to cover the knee or right before the knee? Is the knee included or excluded as a part of the awrah? So that becomes a discussion. So we'll reach that, we'll go through further regarding that matter. That the discussion lies on that. Aye. So,
If you're wearing something that could be considered slightly transparent,
there you are.
is it permissible?
Hey, so that's
Your whole body covers
it's considered to be transparent. So certain things kind of somewhat that is it transparent or not? So if it's something which is transparent, where you can see, only then see the person's actually skin complexion, then salat is batil, salat is invalid. So of the condition regarding of the garment, some of those things to be discussed that ulama have discussed regarding the garment that we're discussing concerning that it must be one which is cover the ear that needs to be covered, right? It should not be also one which is dake, which is one which is tight fitting. Also of those things that it shouldn't be one that is transparent. So of those things so if it's transparent, as if the person can see, as the person, even though he's wearing something, he's not wearing something because it's transparent where you can see his skin. Directly. So that makes that garment haram to be worn, especially regarding salat. If it's transparent regarding the ear that needs to be covered. So that becomes a problem regarding salat if it is revealing those areas that should be covered. The long john suit. Yeah, but the full body one, the body suit.
long johns, sometimes you might just wear the bottom part.
Yeah.
Is it permissible because it's tight now, isn't it?
Aye.
And long johns, they might show the shape of your body.
He's wearing it. In that case, wearing it openly in front of others.
No, in your house.
Hey, if it covers everything, you understand, the person praying by themselves, then it's a different matter than with it being worn in front of others. So it being worn, but also regarding salat, that mentioned خُذُوا زِينَكُمْ إِنَّ كُلِّ مسجد, that to wear of your best of garment in salat. So the person always try to, because you're standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the person try to dress in a way which is appropriate, that even if he's inside his house. So you might find that in certain cultures of the Muslim world, or certain areas of the Muslim world, that the ones that which one? The Moroccan type short sleeve one. So for them is a dress that is worn indoors. If you were to go outdoors, they see it as an aib. The people of that region would not wear that type of garment outdoors to be seen in public. That's only inside between you and your family. To go step outside your door, then no. To go in the masjid, then that's Allah Mustan. You understand? But that's what said no. So even though that garment said the person wearing that, he's still covered. You understand? He can pray that there's nothing wrong. But in that cultural practice, is considered as a certain dress. The norm may vary from one place to another. You understand? So you might find that, as we say, like in African countries, that they are more colorful. You understand? Compared to certain place, the color is somewhat standard. But in other places, like you understand, so for them, that wearing that enough is not a person who's an African wearing is traditional, you understand, type of dress. Take that out to another environment, it may be seen as a garment of shuhra, of one of a person that drawing attention to yourself. But in this environment, it's the norm, because everyone else is like you. You understand? But outside, then it might seem as you stand out. But it's still, but you understand, so sometimes it varies from one region, from one country to another. Things to take into consideration. You understand? Certain things to take into consideration. But generally concerning salat, try to dress in the most appropriate way.
Are we going to cover, the length of the tiyab later on?
Hey, we see what the author bring, inshallah. We see what the author. I'm said that concern that the matter regarding thiyab is more concerned satur al-awra, that is discussed concerning salat. As for the more detail regarding matters regarding the length above ankle, below ankle, those things coming Babul Libas. So you should have a chapter by itself regarding Babul Libas that discuss more other details regarding garments and the rules and the rules more detailed regarding the rules and regulations. Now is more so just give you a general idea regarding what to be worn regarding the salat in particular. Nam?
Just one last question. You know, lace, there's a kind of material they call lace. It's like it's got holes in it. Yeah, they've got tiny holes in there. Are you allowed to wear that for salah? Because I see a lot of people wear that in summer. They use it to make thobe, for example. Are you allowed to wear that?
Sometimes if there's holes that you can see through them, then that becomes the problem. If you can see through it. Sometimes if there's a design.
Tiny ball, like it's like dotted over the body.
Sometimes the thing concerned, if it is something that you can see through, then that becomes the problem. So even though it may be tiny, so if it's either tiny as a style, but you cannot see through it, but if it's something you can see through, then that becomes, you understand, you're exposing yourself. طيب خلاص وبالله توفيق.